what happens in educational spaces ultimately will determine our incarceration rates. If we don't make that kind of deep dive and really deal with those issues, then we're going to be stuck.
We have expectations beyond their developmental level often. You get them to the 9th grade and they're saying, well, I got to get you ready for college. They're not there yet. In fact, they were just 8th graders a few months ago. So.
Welcome to One World's Education Agenda. Our education agenda item this evening is strengthening success pathways for all students. My guests are people who are on the front line of education. They're in schools every day, every school day, and they are leaders in education, and they face a tremendous challenge. As we move forward in this 21st century, we know that our children are challenged more than ever to be prepared, to be adequately prepared to succeed in a global economy. And our schools are challenged to prepare them. But it's not a job schools can do by themselves. We need parents, we need all the teachers, we need community leaders, and we need the business world to help us, to help the schools to prepare our students effectively. And so I'm going to ask my guests to introduce themselves to you. And we start with Principal Johnson. Tell us who you are.
Hello, I'm Edith Johnson. I'm the very proud principal of Wilbercross High School in New Haven, Connecticut.
Welcome to the table.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Principal Puglisi.
Hi, I'm Judy Puglisi. I'm the principal at Metropolitan Business Academy, and it's a pleasure to be here with you this evening.
And yours is the magnet school.
Yes.
And yours is the comprehensive high school. Okay. Dean Williams.
I'm Uhuru Williams, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at Fairfield University.
And you're an author.
Yes.
And an educator, and you grew up in Bridgeport.
I did.
Okay, so, and then?
Yes, good evening. I'm Sahana Smith. I'm the principal of Reed School in Bridgeport, which is a pre-K through 8 neighborhood school located in the North End in Bridgeport.
Welcome to the table.
Thank you.
Now, we're doing this program because I've had many conversations with many parents and teachers and principals and community leaders, and as many of you know, One World has been working on education issues for 20 years. And as we have moved into this, the 21st century, we are getting more and more calls and comments and keeping up with the media. We know that things are not going the way we'd all like them to be. And so tonight, these experts are going to provide you with some information about how to help to make it better. So our topic again, strengthening success pathways for all students. And so, Mrs. Johnson, Wilbercross has a long history in New Haven.
Yes.
And, you know, I remember when people used to say Wilbercross was a school within a school, in that the 3rd floor was where all the advanced placement classes were and where all the more affluent students were. And now it's more of one school. Tell us, what are some of the challenges you face at Wilbercross?
Well, Wilbercross is the largest comprehensive high school in the city of New Haven. We pull from every neighborhood and surrounding towns. There's a lot of beauty within Wilbercross because we are diverse. We are very diverse, even though we're majority minority. We're 50% Hispanic, about almost 30% Black.
Really? You're 50% Hispanic?
Yes, we are.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, 50% Hispanic, almost 30% Black, 20% white. But the beauty about Wilbercross is we have a very diverse group of students, not only socioeconomically, but also racially and ethnically. one student, I remember we were doing a board meet. We had to do a board meeting, and they said, you know, they're going to come and ask you a question. What makes Wilbur Cross special? So you don't have to tell me. Just be prepared to answer that. And she said, well, Wilbur Cross is like America in a building. They have every opportunity out there if you take advantage of it. And I remember going like, oh my God, that's beautiful. I should put it on a shirt, because that's what it really is. And Wilbur Cross works really well for some and not for others. And one of the things that we've been doing since I've been the principal there is looking at how can we continue to make Wilbur Cross successful for the students who are going to come in and be successful because they have that family support, because they have that discipline, because, you know, they understand this is what I'm here for. And how can we help support those students who may not have that background, who are traumatized, who may not have that mind frame when you walk in the building, this is business. So you spoke about the AP program being on one floor. Prior to my arrival there, previous administration kind of did away with that and try and move all the AP classes from that third floor throughout the building. So there's no like one floor, but like every high school, I think that, you know, teenagers are teenagers, so they're going to have their cliques. You know, my athletes hang out in one section of the cafeteria, my drama kids in another section, and things like that, which I just think goes with high school. So getting back to your question of what are we doing, for Wilbur Cross at this point where we are, it's all about building relationships. And I think that's what's important, because a lot of people go, I don't want my kids to go, it's the largest high school, my kid's going to be a number. You know, how are we going to personalize learning there?
Before we talk about the personalized piece, I want you to start at Wilbur Cross, because I went to Wilbur Cross for 10 years to teach science.
Right.
And in those 10 years, I never presented a class anywhere but the third floor. So I am really glad to hear you're talking about it now being one school. But I wanted to start off at Wilbur Cross because we have two people here from New Haven schools, and we have Principal Smith from Reed School. Now, Reed is a pre-K 8 school.
Yes, pre-K through 8.
And as we look today, we can no longer, you know, years ago, many students used to think high school is where you make your mark. You know, high school was where you shine. But today, you have to shine from your start school because you have to build a foundation. And in order to shine in high school, you have to have a good academic foundation in middle school and elementary school. Principal Smith, you're in Bridgeport, and we know that Bridgeport has been through a lot lately, the school district. What are you doing at Reed School to cope with the challenges you face of preparing kids effectively to do well in high school?
We are definitely a school that tries to aspire to academic excellence. Our teachers do set high expectations for students. You talked about building relationships. We work very hard to build relationships with our youngest learners all the way through our oldest learners. We have students that do start in 8th grade. Sometimes it's because their family has moved. Sometimes they may have experienced some things in their previous school and they want a new setting. They want to start over, if you will. But we definitely try to build foundation of reading, writing, mathematics, definitely setting those high expectations for students, encouraging children to read on a regular basis. And we do face some challenges. My school, we need a lot more technology in my school than what's available to us. And we're doing our best to make it work. But that includes sharing computers across grade levels. 8th graders may walk Chromebooks, the small laptops, down to the 1st grade class or the 2nd grade class so that those students have an opportunity to access some of the reading programs that we have that are online.
You are in a magnet school.
Yes.
And your school is fairly new.
This is my 6th year there.
Yes, so compared to Wilbur Cross,
Definitely.
your school is fairly new. What are some of the challenges you face in a magnet school, and are they different from what Mrs. Johnson faces in a comprehensive school?
They might be similar, considering variety of different backgrounds of children from your school. 35% of our children come from 65% of our children come from New Haven, 35% from surrounding towns. From that 35%, some of those children may never have interacted with urban children at all. So we could have children from as far as Naugatuck, Clinton. So our challenge is in the 9th grade. You already have a very difficult transition from 8th grade to high school, but now how can we get these children from all different cultures and geographic areas of Connecticut to come together into a strong community? And we really are believe strongly in the development of the whole child. We're a Comer school. We believe in developing the 6 developmental pathways of children. And we believe that when you meet the needs of children, then they flourish and they learn. And so that's our number one priority. We have a special course in the 9th grade to help children transition from 8th grade to 9th grade, and also to build community among the diverse population.
Okay, we're going to come back and talk more about it, but I want to ask Professor Williams, you teach at a very elite university, Fairfield, and just by the title of the university, we tend to think that all the kids who go there are wealthy kids. You grew up in Bridgeport, and you are very steeped into the African American culture. You understand the history of what has happened to many of our kids. You heard Principal Smith talks about laying the foundation and making kids equipped from pre-K 8. And they either go to a comprehensive or they go to a magnet school. How does her success in a pre-K 8 that might show up or might not show up over here or here, how does that impact what happened in your classroom at Fairfield?
It's absolutely essential in a couple of ways, because we tend to focus narrowly on academic success. So the expectation is that students are going to come out of high school and be prepared for college. And a lot of times you'll have students that come out that are academically prepared, but they don't really do what Judy and Sarhana were talking about. One of the things I love about Reed is we put so much emphasis on college and career ready, and she does a lot of emphasis on community ready. And that really means really being in a position and a place to understand what it means to be part of a larger community. The students that come in and understand that a lot of what they do in the classroom has to have real-world application. It's talking to people. It's being able to communicate, building relationships, and creating the kind of environment that's conducive to learning on a scale that they understand. It's not just what you do in the classroom, it's how you apply it.
You know, I want to say a special thanks to Dr. Eileen Tracy from the New Haven School District, because she identified you too as being the guest to invite. And until I listened to all of this, I didn't realize just how well this group gels together, you know, because we have pre-K 8, we have a comprehensive high school, and we have a magnet school, and an elite university. It's perfect. So, when you talk about kids coming from many different towns, and some of them have never interacted with urban kids before, how does that interaction, when it's not very successful, manifest?
We've been pretty successful.
Oh, okay.
No, but,
nice comeback, Judith.
However, this year, two white children from a suburban town came to me because we have this introductory course where we look at race, identity, and intersectionality. And these two white children were minorities, and they felt that whenever they spoke, that people weren't taking them seriously, they were disagreeing, and they came to me to say, you know, we feel like our voice is being drowned out. So I said to them, do you think it's being, so I said, do you think it's being drowned out, or that people don't agree with you? So they continued to push back. So then I said to them, you know, would you be interested? Oh, it's one of the girls said to me, Miss P, it's not just us. There are other children in this school, but they don't want to come forward. So I said, well, if that's the case, would you be interested in getting the girls together, girls and boys, and we could create an affinity group after school, and you could talk about what your feelings is like being the minority in the school. So they told me that if I said I'd get some people from Yale to come and discuss it, and because in that room too we were talking about privilege and white privilege specifically. And for young ninth graders, and if it's the first time you're hearing it, it can be a little difficult. That was in September. And now I reached out to Yale. I couldn't find the facilitator. But they've never come back to me, and they seem very happy. And they just actually created zines all around race and people's individual experience.
Created zines?
Oh, a zine is an online magazine. So they have a concept. So maybe race is a social construct, was what one children did. Another boy talked about Black Lives Matter. So they all have different topics, and they bring things from their own lived experience. And we also look at emerging topics. So the children just presented them, and those children took part also, and it seemed like things were going well.
Huh.
So.
Wow. Okay. So
The one thing I try to do is somebody may come to me, and I try to validate their experience, even if I
Yes.
don't agree with it.
Yes.
So I think if you validate each of the different groups' experience and you respect it, and then try to address it and look at it, I think that you can minimize problems.
we really live in a very dynamic world, a very different world educationally than we did even 20 years ago. Because recently at your nice elite university, there's a problem with some kind of party and then a protest afterwards. She says what she just did is having these two white students talking about their voices being drowned out. And that's a different experience because normally, you know, black kids or Hispanic kids go to the predominantly white school and they're not heard at all. How does that type of thing shows up at your school?
This is the crux of Community Ready, because when you don't do interventions like Judy did, and I was very fortunate to work with Judy's teachers at a program at Yale, but you know, we can talk about Fairfield, we can talk about Missouri, we can talk about Yale University that had its own troubles with students involved in what we would characterize as insensitive behaviors. But when they don't have those kind of interventions early, and they don't have an opportunity to really become empathetic, then what you get are situations where they're cocooned through middle school, through high school, they get to university, and the expectation is they never really appreciate or understand that their actions have consequences for others. They see themselves in some sense as kind of divorced from the world. And that's a model of education that in some sense privileges privilege. And privilege in a way that can be very divisive to communities. That really, in the words of Martin Luther King, gives you, men who are and women who are educated, right, but not educated for others. One of the things I love about Metropolitan is this idea of cure personalis, care for the whole person. So they're not just talking about. I was their commencement speaker last year. I was very honored to do that. But one of the